At the beginning of the film, we learn that it is based on real events. The main character steps on the ferry, which will soon take him to his hometown in the American countryside. Chris Vaughn served in the special branch of the U.S. Army for 8 years, and now he is happy to return to his small homeland. Soon, the man comes ashore and rambles through known streets. On one of them, Chris notices a child sitting in a stroller and nearby his mother, who buys illegal substances from a dealer. As he passes by, he shakes his head disapprovingly. With his rucksack on his shoulder, Chris continues his way and passes industrial buildings. The man stops at a sawmill and is surprised to learn that it is closed. Soon, Chris is called by a man in a police car. Sheriff Watkins tells him that the sawmill has been closed for 3 years, but there is a great casino in their town called the Wild Cherry. Chris reports that he's not much of a gambler. Having learned the character's name, the man offers to drive him home. On the way, Chris tells that he has not been in his native land for 8 years. The man also mentions that another sheriff used to work here. Watkins says that his predecessor fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into a tree, so hard that the car was folded into an accordion. Soon the man arrives home. Watkins shakes his hand and asks him to vote for him in future elections. Chris rambles to the house, where he is greeted by his sister. Michelle hugs her brother and tells him she is very happy to see him. She also tells him that the tent nearby belongs to her son Pete. The mother, Connie, who is also excited to see her son after all these years, comes out of the house. The whole family decides to have Chinese food for dinner. Chris asks about the sawmill where they used to work. When he returned home, he had intended to work in it, so he was very upset when he learned that it was closed. Chris Sr. replies that he was suddenly sacked and the sawmill closed soon afterward. Pete sits down at the table and acts a little brazenly with the man. The boy asks permission from Michelle and goes for a walk, however, not until 10 p.m. as she said, but 11:30 p.m. Connie laughs, saying it reminds her a lot of her son. It starts to rain, and Pete returns badly soaked. The boy refuses to spend the night in the room with Chris and asks him again if he has killed people. The Marine looks at Pete in silence and then turns away. The next day, Chris decides to help the family with the housework. A small trailer soon pulls up to the house. The man is pleased to see Ray, his old mate, getting out of the car. The guy tells him that after Chris left, he got into music and then got hooked on drugs. Luckily, Ray has kicked the habit and is now in business. Guy also suggests to his friend to go to a rugby game with his old friends. On the field, Chris learns that Jay, having inherited a sawmill, soon sold it and opened a casino. The Marine soon sees the guy himself, who is acting a little arrogant. During the game, Jay cuts the man off several times, and it's as if he wants to start a quarrel with him. In the stands, Chris notices Pete, who is chatting with the older guys. The last stage of the game begins. The man and Jay, in charge of the teams, prepare plans to defeat their opponents. The guy is playing foul and asks one of the players to cut Chris off on purpose and hit him under the knee. The Marine falls down, but believes that what happened was an accident. Jay's team wins. After the game, the man invites Chris to his casino and promises to buy him a drink and introduce him to the girls afterwards. The man smilingly agrees to come to the Wild Cherry. Noticing his nephew, Chris reprimands him for the fact that together with older guys, he used an illegal substance. In the evening, together with his friends, the Marine decides to go to the casino. Chris is impressed by the abundance of people, as well as the many beautiful girls. Jay meets his honored guests and sends them to the VIP lounge while he closes himself in his office. The friends decide to please Chris and order a dancer for him. The man enjoys the performance, but then recognizes his ex-girlfriend in the dancer. Recognizing Chris, Dennis is embarrassed and runs away. He returns to the VIP lounge and finds his friends. Chris also notices that the establishment is dealing in illegal substances. One of the man's mates decides to try his luck and throws the cubes. Chris notices that they are magnetized and accuses the casino worker of cheating. The guards then pounce on the Marine and pick a fight with him. However, 8 years in the military don't go to waste. With the help of accurate and confident blows, Chris sends his opponents to sleep one by one. However, the man is eventually disabled with a taser. Booth, one of Jay's henchmen, is cruel to the character, after which he throws him on the road. Fortunately, Chris is discovered and brought to the hospital by a passing trucker. At the hospital, Watkins promises the man's family that he will sort it all out. Ray visits the friend and tells him that their town has changed a lot in 8 years, and not for the better. Chris recovers and is soon discharged. He communicates with Pete, who tries to take care of him, and also watches TV programs with Ray. After recovering a bit, Chris continues his workouts. Soon, the man is about to go to town and is glad that his father looked after his car. Together with the man, Chris sets off on the road. On the way, the Marine tells him that he has returned home, dreaming of working in a sawmill. Chris Sr. says he misses that job too. After a trip to the shop, Chris returns home. He is soon visited by Jay, who thanks the man for exposing the fraud in his establishment. The man apologizes for the work of his guards, believing that they have overreached. Jay offers the Marine to be his head of security and forget about all the disagreements. The guy also wants to compensate Chris for the damage he caused. However, the man proudly refuses and says he will go to the sheriff. Jay, with a sigh, goes to his car and drives away. The Marine visits the police station and talks to Watkins. Chris learns that the sheriff has already closed the case, as the casino is the main source of income for the town, and nothing should affect his reputation. He is angry and declares that he will not leave things the way they are. Soon, Chris receives a visit from his ex-girlfriend. The man is happy to see Denny and offers to talk to her. The girl tells him that she is working at the casino, as she needs to pay the rent somehow. Back at the house, Chris learns that his nephew has become ill. He goes to the place and sees that Pete has been using illegal substances with other teenagers. They tell him that they were given them by the casino security guards. An enraged Chris drives to the Wild Cherry. Before doing so, the man stops by the house and takes a gun, despite his father's requests not to do this. Chris soon reaches the casino but decides to arm himself with a small board. The Marine enters the building and begins to put the guards running at him to sleep one by one. Last but not least, Chris eliminates Booth and takes his army badge from him. He breaks the glass in Jay's office and then goes outside and gets into a car. Soon, Chris is arrested by the sheriff and his men. The lawyer offers the man to agree to 3 months of house arrest and punitive deduction. However, Chris realizes that in this case, there will be no trial and the casino owner will remain unpunished. Therefore, Chris refuses the offer. At the trial, Jay's employees expose the man as an inadequate and cruel military man. Chris refuses the services of a lawyer and himself makes a speech in his defense. He asks the jury to reflect on what Jay and his kind have done to their town. In the end, Chris is acquitted and then decides to be elected local sheriff. Denny is also present at the trial and is very happy about the man's release. Upon returning home, Chris begins to modify his car to make it more suited to his new status. He attached identification stickers and also installed a blue light. From the board he used to attack casino security guards, Chris makes a bat. On his first day on the job, after taking over from Watkins, he fires all the police officers, as they have long been corrupt. Chris stops the casino owner and checks his documents. Jay advises the new sheriff to be careful. He's unlikely to succeed as a sheriff, but he might live to his birthday if he stays out of trouble. Chris gives the guy his documents and asks him to fix the taillights. After that, he smashes them with a bat and then drives off. Chris visits his friend and suggests to become a policeman. Ray agrees to help his friend deal with illegal substances. The guy proposes to start with small workers and then go to the suppliers and so on. Ray is sure that this is the only way that will lead them to the lab. The sheriff follows his friend's advice and soon finds Booth. The man is found in possession of illegal substances, but in order to get him talking, the friends decide to take his car apart piece by piece. However, even this doesn't help, and Booth curses the policeman, but continues to keep quiet. Chris realizes that his family is in danger. He plans to spend the night at the department, and Ray asks him to keep an eye on his house with a gun. At night, Chris eats noodles and watches TV. Soon, the man is visited by Denny, who brings him lots of homemade food. Booth, who is behind bars, jokes that the girl is working now on call. However, Chris doesn't react to his comment. Denny admits that she decided to keep up with the man and left work at the casino. After that, the couple kisses and is left alone. A new day arrives. Ray wakes up on the couch from the fact that Pete goes to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Soon, the guy smells something burning and realizes that something is up. Pete and his family have been attacked by Jay's men. It's restless at the police station too. Chris's car has gone up in flames, and there are guys with guns outside. During the chaos, Booth confesses that the lab is in a sawmill. Chris stops all the guys attacking him and goes to his house. Luckily, Ray also manages to defeat Jay's men. Chris then drives to the sawmill. There, a fierce confrontation ensues between the sheriff and Jay. In the end, Chris wins and arrests the casino owner. Wild Cherry soon closes, and the sawmill begins its work again. This is the end of the film. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this film, and see you in new videos.